Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Circle Up and Get Real. And getting real is what I want to do today because some things are starting to come to my awareness that I probably needed to wake up to. And I just wanted to share some of my observations, my wonders, my ponders about me and what I'm recognizing in new ways. So here's the thing about being someone who's in the realm of personal development. It's for me first. It's not for what I'm teaching or facilitating or speaking about. It's about me first. And so noticing things that cause me to feel certain ways are for me. And I just wanted to share with you some things I'm starting to get really present to in my observation of my own life this week. So I have a course called Real Me Intensive, and it's a 6 week course where we dig into what it means to be real. And it's a very personal course, so it's for people who really want to uncover some of their limiting beliefs and have little assignments to do during the week so that they can start seeing progress in 6 weeks. So today's session is about energy. And so I'm reviewing today's lesson. This is my, I don't know, I think sixth cohort of people who are in this course. And as I'm reviewing the lesson for today, I was shown some information from the course that really applied to me personally. And I just want to share that in the hope that someone else will also recognize for themselves what the lessons and messages that we get are meant to wake us up to. So I'll just back up a little bit. I am pretty now foundational and fundamental in my use of the concept from the 15 commitments of conscious leadership, which is about above and below the line. So above the line is open, curious, committed to learning, which is conscious awareness. And then unconsciousness is below the line, which is closed, defensive, and committed to being right. And when that hits you in your life, you know it, especially if you've been doing the work. I mean, you will recognize when you've fallen below the line, when you start to get defensive. I do. I notice it for myself. And so recognizing that for me means that I can either choose to stay below the line or I can choose to do something, address something, change something that will allow me to come back to above the line. And so today I wanted to talk about a distinction that's one of the parts of the course today that as I was reading it, I thought, oh man, this really applies to me in my life. So here's the concept. It's one of the mindsets that we need to address if we want to go from, I'll say, from unconsciousness to consciousness. So if we want to go from that space where I feel like I need to be right about something, where for me it's my jaw, I can feel it in my jaw, I can feel it in my inability. I was going to say inability. I think it's unwillingness. I don't think it's inability. My unwillingness to make eye contact. And when I feel like that, and I know that there's something I want to say but I don't, or there's something that it just feels uncomfortable to me, then I know that there's a message and a lesson in that for me. And if I don't change something, I will stay unconscious in that category or that combination. Hi, Vera. Good to see you here. I love that you're here. So, Vera, please feel free to add any questions or comments as you're listening here. So, what I'm kind of getting today, again, I wrote the course a couple years ago, so it's not like it's an unfamiliar course to me. It's just that sometimes the mindsets in this case really hit me in a way that is like, Jodee, this is for you too. So today, the mindset that we're going to be working on later this afternoon is understanding is not the same as awareness. And so I want to break that down and tell you what I mean by that. Understanding is not the same as awareness. And then I'll tell you why it hit me especially hard in today, but it's been a build up over a couple weeks. So all knowledge in your head, knowledge, all knowledge that ever was or will be is present now and always has been. So just hold on to that thought for a second. This means that when we lived in caves, the knowledge for creating the iPhone, the computer, the space shuttle, and everything else that has been formed by human hands was already there somewhere. The knowledge of that was already there generations ago. So the knowledge to invent things that will show up in the future is also here right now. So it's the knowledge piece that is where it is, and what didn't exist then and what doesn't exist for future generations is our awareness of that knowledge. So while we've always had it, we just weren't aware we had the knowledge. The awareness is what was missing. So awareness means we perceive the facts of something. That's a way to define awareness in this conversation. Awareness just means that we perceive the fact of something. So when we became aware of the knowledge it would take to create the wheel, for example, we were able to bring that into form. So going back to cave people, right? All of a sudden, oh, it could work like this. Then we brought it into form. Now, understanding is different from awareness. Understanding involves comprehension, perspective, context, and wisdom. So comprehension is how you understand things. Perspective, context, and wisdom. For instance, our ancestors gained awareness of the knowledge required to create the wheel, but they surely lacked the understanding of how that invention would revolutionize their way of life. Because they couldn't, right? They couldn't picture it at the time. They're like, this is going to make things easier, but they couldn't have known. And here's the thing about we in our situation today, no matter where we are, we lack understanding as well. I lack understanding as well. I can be aware of something, but I can lack the understanding of it. So we lack understanding of the impact of our inventions. In this case, how was the iPhone going to change the world? I don't know, maybe Steve Jobs knew that, but we lack that. But we also lack the understanding of how our behavior, our conversation, how we're being in the world can also impact the people around us. So I've had situations that I've been part of in the last, I don't know, couple weeks, especially, where awareness, for sure, I know stuff. I mean, I'm aware of things. And there's a gap between what I know and what I do sometimes. And it becomes clearer when I am called out on things, when somebody calls me out and says, you're acting in a way that isn't congruent with the way I know you to be. And so, Jodee, you're doing something different. Let me call you out on it. I really do appreciate that. I do, because how would I know how I occur to other people if there's not somebody who feels they can call me out? Calling me out on something puts me on the defense. I know this. It causes me to fall below the line. My jaw gets tight. I'm like, I want to be right about this. So calling out, I love that term because I've really understood that differently since I listened to Loretta Ross's TED Talk. And her book is called Calling In the Calling Out Culture. And I think people, I'll speak for myself. I have been, in my journey, I have been in the space of wanting to call people out. You made a mistake, I want to call you out. You have a typo on your thing, I want to call you out. And calling out is about me. I want to call you out because I want you to know how much I know I'm right. And that's a below the line behavior. Calling people out is about the person who does the calling. There are other ways to do this, to point out ways to shift or, take awareness and understanding into account. And so I love that Loretta Ross talks about calling people in, which is asking a different question that actually engages them in another way, rather than causing people to feel defensive because they feel offended against. Now, I'm not saying this is right or wrong or anything. I'm saying this is natural, at least it is to me, when I feel called out to feel defensive. And what that does for me in my 20 years of personal development work is, ooh, there's something here for me. It's not easy. It's not comfortable. It's not what I would want. And it causes me to go, okay, there's a lesson in here for me. There's something for me in this way I feel about things because I am aware that I've gone below the line. I hope this all makes some kind of sense. And so for me, I can be upset at the person who called me out, or I can go, okay, so that person called me out. I don't know if they intended to call me out so that they could show that they're, superior or whatever. I can make up all kinds of stories. And if I just allow that to be a reminder to me to engage in the conversation differently, to then ask a question myself, I can alleviate my discomfort of falling below the line. Because there's a distinction between awareness and understanding. So I'll try to put it into more specific context here. So if a person said to me, Jodee, you're not walking your talk, and I get defensive, I should know better. Of course I should, right? That's the should of things. I should know better. In this moment, I didn't. So I made a mistake, or I fell into an old pattern or something. If I wanted to be engaged with someone else, there might be another way for other people to engage me than to call me out. Now, I recognize that the work I've done puts more responsibility on me because I have to know better and then I have to do better because I'm a leader in this space. So when I've felt called out recently, I have gotten into my judgmental state, which has me, without thinking, reacting and wanting to say things like, "Oh, so who are you? You're doing all, I want to judge. I want to judge." I get into the space of putting back on my judgy pants, which I have taken off over the years. And it still happens. I still fall below the line. Dang it. I still fall below the line. I still want to be right about things. And so, what I hope I can share with you here is what I'm working on doing is noticing the distinction between being aware of something and understanding it. I understand, and I could be wrong too. I could be wrong. I could say this person who I feel called out by, as an example. I could say, so let's talk more about this, or I can let it go. I can let it go. I have the ability to let it go. And so I have to determine for myself, is it worth the conversation? Is it worth the digging in and explaining exactly how I feel about this and what I've learned and blah? Yeah, most of the time, no. Because there are people who don't choose to dig as deep as I want to dig. And that doesn't make them wrong. It doesn't make me right. I can choose to let things go. So even if I feel called out, the good news is I know that feeling. I know it. I know that feeling and what it does to me. I know where I feel it. And I can go, oh, there's something to be shifted here. Or I can go, oh, there's something to dig into here with the person. Either way, I have a choice. And that's the cool part about this is I have a choice. I'm not bound by the way it's always been. I'm not bound by the beliefs I've been handed by someone else. I have choice. Every day, all the time, I always have choice. And if I forget that, that's on me. That's not on somebody else who should have known better. Even me, if I should on myself, I should have known better. Yeah, okay, but in that moment I didn't. I fell below the line. I made a mistake. I messed up. I can own my mistake. I can apologize. Those are all choices. Or I can let it go. I have all those choices. So this conversation in my head started when I was studying for today's lesson about the distinction between awareness and understanding. Sure, I can be aware of things, but I don't always do what I'm aware of because sometimes I fall into a different space. David, thank you. David says the space between stimulus and response refers to the concept popularized by Viktor Frankl that there is a gap between an event or trigger, which is the stimulus, and our immediate reaction, which is the response. Within this space, We have the freedom to choose our response rather than automatically reacting. This space allows for conscious decision making, leading to personal growth and freedom. David, 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 I love following you. By the way, everybody who's listening to this, if you're not following David Hansen, please do. He is an amazing, well, you're a poet right now, David. I'm loving watching what you're putting out there through your own journey and your own wonders and ponders. So yes, Viktor Frankl, there's a gap between the trigger, the stimulus, and our immediate reaction. I've heard that said, the first thought. We're not responsible for our first thought because it's an immediate reaction. And if we want to grow, we are then responsible for every thought after that first one. And if we notice the first one and it's not something that we like, it's not something I like in my body, I don't like feeling my jaw get tight, then I'm responsible for the next one. And the way I can do that, we'll talk about this in the course, is we call it box breathing. And I got that term from Brene Brown. I'm sure it's from someone else. But you take a breath, you draw a box, and then you take a breath in for one side of the box, like breathe in, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, breathe out, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4. So that's 16 seconds of taking a breath between the stimulus and the response, because that can take me back. It reoxygenates my brain, takes me back from immediate emotional reaction to I have the ability to respond. And if you think about the word responsible, able to respond, we are all able to respond. Now, whether we're willing to or not, that's another thing. And in this world of personal development, of self-awareness, of personal responsibility, I want to remember my abilities, my ability to respond. David says it's hard. It is hard, David, but it's so worth it. I would much rather be in this space, even when it's hard, than to be in the space of hard where everybody makes me mad, and everything someone says triggers me or puts that response to me. So when we find our people, David and Vera, who are on this, at least putting the comments here, when we find our people, our conversations are so much richer. There's so much more depth to them because I'm not always looking to call people out. She calls that, Loretta Ross calls this throwing a gotcha bomb at people. And we've gotten to that point, it seems, in our social media, in our divisiveness, where it's so easy to throw a gotcha bomb at somebody and then walk away. Ooh, you made a mistake. Let me call you out. So I can prove that I'm right? Is that what it's for? It's so interesting. If you've not seen her TED Talk, I would highly recommend it. Calling in the Calling Out Culture. It's the name of her book. And she really does a great job of explaining the 4 different ways that she says calling people in, calling them out, calling on them, and calling it off. I love all 4 of those. And again, that's also a choice, calling it off, right? I'm going to walk away. I'm going to call it off right now because it's just not something I'm choosing to engage in. And please don't forget that you have that choice too. It's not always about needing to teach people things to show that you're right. That goes back to unconsciousness, doesn't it? Where I'm closed, defensive, and committed to being right. I think we'll know if it's a dialogue, which is suspending previous assumptions in order to learn from each other. I think that's one of the options that we have. Melissa, there's so much empowerment knowing you don't have to call folks out because you know the truth and choose to walk away and let them. Let them. Thanks, Melissa, for that. Mel Robbins' new book. She's all let them. The let them theory. Let them. And then remember also, let me. Like, what will I choose to do too? And part of that is where we sort of forget when we get in teaching mode, where I have to teach them how to do it. And then I'll walk away thinking that I've just taught them. There's a whole different, dynamic there too. And engaging with people. Melissa, you're one. David, for sure. And Vera, I know you all. And you are the kind of people who choose to engage in dialogue. Dialogue is when we agree together in our conversations. And maybe we don't agree like implicitly. We don't say, okay, we're going to have a dialogue now where we have suspended our previous assumptions in order to learn from each other. Maybe we don't have to be that explicit with it, but I know you and we do this. This is how we interact. Melissa says, such a great book. Let me choose and let me choose peace. Yes, Melissa, yes. And then I am in charge of my choices. And I will not, how can I say this so it doesn't sound teachy, but if I make my choices, what other people choose for them is their choice too. I don't need to say you need to choose this too. We should on each other. Thank you, Tony Robbins, for that. We should on each other and ourselves, right? I should know better. Again, going back to awareness and understanding. I'm aware of this, and sometimes I would like other people to ask a question like, what's really going on? Because this isn't like you. Instead of, well, you should know better, Jodee. I wonder. I wonder how things would shift if we started working on our understanding and working on how when somebody has a different political view than you do or a different whatever, that instead of saying they're bad, I'm going to put them in a category, we would say, huh, I'm wondering, or tell me more, or let's talk about that. We're reading in a books club I formed. We're reading Brene Brown's Dare to Lead, and she has these great questions about how we can engage in a rumble. I won't give it all away, but I have that page, those 2 pages in that book. What is it called when you fold over the corner? Dog-eared. I have those pages because it's so important to me to engage in dialogue. And so I will ask questions, and sometimes people feel confronted by that. And Melissa, let them, right? Let them feel confronted, because if my energy is not confrontational, it's curiosity. That is something we would either have to work through if we choose to stay in dialogue or walk away from. If people feel confronted by my curiosity, I can adjust a little bit if I notice it, but if I don't notice it or they don't say something, how will I know? That's the beauty of dialogue. That's the real beauty of true dialogue. When we agree, we come together and we agree to take our understanding to another level, to dig in, we may not always understand, yet we can accept maybe without understanding. I don't understand how it must be to feel how you feel. I just don't. I don't have the same perspective. I don't have the same experience. And I guess we could talk about empathy and sympathy. There's a lot of things we could talk about here, but I'll leave it at that. Thank you for allowing me the space to work through this, because, it's for me. It's all for me, which is why I love this podcast. So if you are interested in more conversations like this, I'm always looking for guests on my podcast. I'm in my sixth season of Circle Up and Get Real, and I'm not doing a very good job of asking people to subscribe. So if you are listening to this and you could help me do that, that would be so great. I think we're up to 74 followers now. Thank you, 74 followers. I know people who have gotten lots more followers than that quickly. If you can help me, that would be awesome. You have a great 4th too, David. Be safe. Everybody be safe. And have fun. I know we're going to have some weather again on Friday, our 3rd Friday in a row with some weather in this part of the country. So be safe. And as always, I'll end as I always do with these podcasts. Go be real. Just find ways to be real this week. Vera, the perfect relationship between curiosity and growth. And Melissa, I learned from every interaction with you. I love that, as do I, Melissa. So thank you, everybody. Thank you for being with me today, and let's see you next week. Take care. Bye.